So thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to share a bit about our ScriptSource website. Before I start, I should say that I'm neither a linguist nor a techie. I'm just an IT manager, so I might struggle to answer more technical questions, although I'll do my best. But I'm hopeful that ScriptSource will be of interest to many of you. ScriptSource is a website developed by SAL's non-Roman script initiative team. We were often being asked for information about scripts and script-related resources, so we needed a public place where people could find answers and download resources. And since we know that there's a great deal of script-related knowledge out there, we wanted to create a collaborative site so that others could contribute their knowledge, and we're interested in information from researchers, engineers and linguists with a variety of backgrounds. ScriptSource was first released in June 2011, so it's just 7 years old, and we've made a lot of enhancements to it since then, and the site now attracts between 15,000 and 17,000 visits per month. And there are two kinds of information we have on ScriptSource: core data and community contributions. And core data is mainly based on public standards. So we have pages for every language that's in the ISO 639-3 standard, and every script that's in ISO 15924, and also all the characters in the Unicode standard. They each have a page on ScriptSource. Now, ScriptSource also includes a list of writing systems, and our definition of a writing system is a particular language written with a particular script. So I think the writing system definition ISO use is what we would call a script. So we have thousands of writing systems where it's a script language intersection. And as expected, you find ones such as French written with Latin or Nepali written with Devanagari, but you also have less common ones such as Hebrew written with Braille or Cypriot Arabic written with Greek. And the writing systems also have their own set of pages on ScriptSource. And ScriptSource also has a glossary. And information that's not related to a specific script, language or character is grouped into topics. So, for instance, we have a Unicode topic which has introductory articles about Unicode and links to Unicode-related resources. And the information for each core data page is organized into subject area tabs. And the General Overview tab includes a sample of the script, lists some technical features, and gives an historical and linguistic overview. And other information is located on the other tabs. And you can see some of the tabs are grey, which is where no information is present. And the Fonts and Keyboard tab includes links to various different fonts for downloading. So as well as core data, we have community contributions, and each contribution should be tagged, associated with a core data item, so a language or a script or a character or a topic. And the most common kind of contribution is an entry, a short article or an image, such as this one discussing conjunct variations in Devanagari script. And another kind of contribution is a source, which is a link to a website or a relevant book or article. Now, it's worth saying that the team I head up, which created ScriptSource, is driven by the practical needs of language communities. So we're there to solve technical problems. And they're not so good at publishing research, although I do try and encourage them to publish their research on ScriptSource, if not elsewhere. But it's fair to say that we're more motivated by enabling others to do research and making that research openly available than we are to doing it ourselves. So this presentation isn't about the fruits of our research, but more providing a platform for others to share the fruits of their research. Now, one important kind of contribution is a submission of grapheme sets, which is the mappings between characters and phonemes for a writing system, and we'll be looking at that in a bit more detail later on. So submissions can be associated with any number of scripts, languages, characters and topics, and this shows the associations for the entry we were just looking at, the Devanagari conjunct. In order to contribute to ScriptSource, you need to be a registered user, and registering is just a matter of setting up a username and a password and responding to a verification email. And once you've registered and logged on, you just need to look for the ScriptSource, Add to ScriptSource and related buttons. And if you submit a contribution, it's then checked by a moderator, usually me, before it appears on the site. Any draft contributions can be kept on the site under the My Contributions link, so you can come back and finish it off on another day. And you can also modify a contribution after it's been published by clicking on the edit link. Now, in the past, if you did that, it was taken offline until you resubmitted it and it had been republished. But we've improved the process, so now the original version stays online until the new version is published. And under My Contributions, you can see the original version with an E for editing in progress and the modified version with an M. So it's a much better way for modifying contributions. And as you can tell from the subject areas, we accept submissions covering many different kinds of information. For instance, this information under Forms and Behaviour discusses cedilla positioning, whilst this one under Design and Typography discusses issues of glyph collisions, and this one under Sorting and Analysis compares Amharic transliteration tables. So we always welcome contributions to ScriptSource. As well as the Add to ScriptSource button, we have a facility to start discussions. So this example is a discussion for Devanagari, and you can subscribe to an email list if you want to be copied in on any new discussions that are started. And the volume is very low, so it won't fill your inbox. All the entries on ScriptSource are comment enabled, so you can comment on a script description, a link to a font, a character page, or whatever. And we've also provided an option to post needs. So people have posted needs for a specific font, for data conversion, and OCR software for particular scripts. That feature hasn't been particularly well utilized, but it's there if you want to give it a try. And we have 3 blogs. The first is for news and articles about ScriptSource itself, such as this one. The second is for articles about writing system implementation, and the third for articles on font design and development. And you can subscribe to an RSS feed for any or all of the blogs. We'd actually welcome guest bloggers, so if there's any topic that you think might be of interest to the ScriptSource community, then do let me know. So we've looked at some entries, and we'll just look at some sources, which are references to books or web pages, articles, and other materials. Now, on all of our language pages, we've generated source links to a number of other websites. Basically, any website that uses the ISO 639-3 code in its URL, we can link to automatically to set it up. So this page for Afrikaans has links to the ISO 639-3 page, the entry on the ethnologue, the glottolog entry, the multi-tree, OLAC resources, SIL's own archive, and also the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in the various languages on the Unicode site. In addition to that, there are manual entries such as these ones added to the automatic ones. Also, some websites want to link back to ScriptSource, which is easy to do. Our script pages use the ISO 15924 codes in their short URL. Languages use the ISO 639-3 code, and the character pages use the USV, the Unicode Scalar Value. And on every ScriptSource page, under links, you can see the short URL, which is the one that people can link to. We have a search mechanism that scans the entire ScriptSource database, which can sometimes take a little while. For instance, if you search for Tibetan, you'll get 339 results. Now, in the past, these were presented in one long column, and people sometimes struggled to find the information that they were looking for. So now it's summarized by headings, and if you click on a particular heading, then you see the entries underneath. So clicking on the character heading brings up a list of 207 characters which have Tibetan in their description. And if you link on any of those, that takes you to the relevant character page on ScriptSource. Each script has a Unicode Status page. So if the script is encoded in Unicode, we have links to the relevant chapter in the standard, as well as the Unicode chart. And we also have links to as many Unicode proposal papers as there are online. So that gives a fairly good reference to how the script got encoded. Now obviously some scripts aren't yet in Unicode, but they still have a Unicode status page with as much information as available. So for instance, it will tell you if the script is on the Unicode roadmap and will also list any proposals that have been submitted. Now each language includes a list of writing systems to show which scripts are used to write it, and character exemplars are linked directly to a writing system. So if we look at the writing systems for Azerbaijani and select Azerbaijani written with Cyrillic, that then takes us to the writing system pages for Azerbaijani, and if you click on symbols and characters, you can then see the main characters used by this writing system are listed underneath. And you'll see just underneath that heading there's a data status CLDR, which indicates that that's where the data comes from. ScriptSource uses various data from the Common Locale Data Repository, CLDR for short. If you haven't come across it before, it's hosted by the Unicode Consortium and is used by many major IT companies, including Microsoft, Apple, Google and IBM, and SIL also contributes to it. So currently, for every locale on the CLDR, we're importing the month names and the day names, as well as exemplar data. We also collect data in our own SIL locale data repository, known as SLDR, and that mostly consists of character lists. So you can see the data status is SLDR on this example. Because we want to encourage submissions, we don't apply the same vigorous vetting to the SLDR as is applied to the CLDR. Now, since ScriptSource is database driven, we can click on one of the characters, such as the somewhat uncommon Arabic letter ayin with 2 dots above, and that brings up a list of writing systems that use that particular character. So these are some of the languages that include that character in their main exemplar. Now we've made a user interface that enables a character list to be added directly to ScriptSource. So if you go to the writing system page and find there isn't a list of characters there, you can just click on the Add Characters link. And the character exemplars that are supported are main, auxiliary, index and punctuation. And the format for entering them is similar to that used on the CLDR. So if you enter one using this mechanism, it will be stored on our SIL locale data repository. And as mentioned earlier, the writing system has to be in place on ScriptSource before you can add the character list. So if you have a character list but the writing system isn't there, let us know and we'll sort it out. Now, one of the main enhancements that we've made to ScriptSource since it went live has been to implement a way to represent grapheme sets for a writing system, which is obviously particularly relevant to this conference. Now, by a grapheme set, we mean a mapping between the characters used to write a language and the sounds or phonemes of that language. One thing we realized is that while some parts of an orthography have been standardized, such as the exemplar character lists we just looked at, there didn't appear to be any standardized way to document the phoneme-grapheme correspondences for a writing system, which are clearly a fundamental part of an orthography statement. So anyone needing to compare the way that a particular phoneme is represented in different writing systems basically has to wade through various orthography statements to extract the data they're looking for. So we set out to make a standard way to present the grapheme set for a writing system to enable ScriptSource to be used for the comparison and analysis of grapheme data. And here are some working definitions for our terminology, since the terms are sometimes used slightly differently. So on ScriptSource, a phoneme refers to a single unit of sound, such as voiceless alveolar fricative, not tied to a specific language. A grapheme, on the other hand, refers to a character or sequence of characters used to represent a phoneme in a particular writing system. So the voiceless alveolar fricative can be represented in English by the graphemes S, C, PS or X. Now, this information can be looked at from several different angles. For a phoneme, we can look at all of the different graphemes that are known to represent it in various writing systems. For a writing system, we can look at all the graphemes that it uses and the sounds that they represent. Whilst for a character, we can show all the writing systems that use it as a grapheme, either singly or as part of a multigraph, and what sounds that they represent. So if we're starting with a phoneme, then a good entry point is the phoneme charts. And on most ScriptSource pages, you'll find phoneme charts in the links section. And there are 4 charts, one each for consonants, vowels and diphthongs, additional features and tones. So this is the consonant chart with voiceless alveolar fricative selected. And if we scroll down on this page, we then see a list of all the known graphemes that are used to represent this sound. And for most of the graphemes, a characteristic word, a sample word, is included. So from this page, other writing systems and graphemes can be explored. Now you'll notice that this list includes a number of different scripts. To include only writing systems for a specific script, we use the script filter. So this shows only graphemes for Latin script writing systems. Now a different starting point is to select the Graphemes and Phonemes tab for a writing system. And this page shows all the graphemes used to write Asturian, which has a similar orthography to Spanish. And all the grapheme data has explanatory information provided by the contributor. Now if we click on a USV code, for instance for the letter H, which is 0068, then that takes us to a page showing writing systems that use the letter H and which phonemes correspond to the graphemes, many of which in this case are multigraphs. Now if we click on the English grapheme CH, which is different from the Asturian grapheme CH because it represents different sounds, then we see that there are 3 phonemes represented by the English CH grapheme, and sample words are shown for each. Now if we click on the symbol for the ch phoneme, that takes us to the page for that phoneme, the voiceless post-alveolar affricate. And this shows a list of all the graphemes on our database that are used to represent that sound. Now if we go up to the top and click on the additional features, we can see a variety of other linguistic features which can be represented by grapheme data, such as aspiration, palatalization, nasalization, and so on. And clicking on a feature shows a list of the phonemes that include that feature. So if we choose pharyngalization, and then select the S with pharyngalization marker phoneme, that allows us to explore the variety of ways that the pharyngalized alveolar fricative is written in different languages. And special notation includes a dot or a hook in Latin script, or a special character in Arabic, or a dot in Thana. And you can see there are lots of different paths through our grapheme and phoneme data, and I've had to go through it fairly quickly. So if you're interested, then I would encourage you just to log on to ScriptSource and have a play with it and let us know what you think. Now right now we only have grapheme sets for a handful of writing systems on ScriptSource, and we would love to add many more. It's one of those things, the more data we get, the more valuable a resource it will become. So if you're familiar with an orthography of a language, we'd be delighted for you to contribute data. And to enable that to be done, we've created a template spreadsheet for you to fill in. So you basically need to supply the graphemes, characters and character sequences mapped to the sounds that they make, along with example words. So this is a detail from the template, and this is a detail from a completed template, and it comes with plenty of instructions. So please do have a chat with me or email us at contact@scriptsource.org if you'd like to contribute a grapheme set. Now, one initiative which we set up last year was for a linguistic institution to require each student to submit the grapheme set to ScriptSource for the language that they were researching, so that effectively the ScriptSource submission was part of the coursework. And we'd love to extend that initiative, so if you know of any organisation that might be interested in doing that, then please have a word with me afterwards. Now, just before I wrap up, I briefly want to mention the web fonts which we use on ScriptSource. This is where fonts are stored on the site server and downloaded into the browser, rather than using the fonts installed on a user's machine. And that's important for ScriptSource because we need fonts for a wider variety of scripts than most users have installed. And it's especially useful for our Grapheme phoneme feature because it's not helpful to give detailed documentation of graphemes if the right font isn't then available to display the characters. For instance, we have a grapheme set for a language called Thai Dom that's written with the Thai Viet script of Southeast Asia. But that's not a script that most users will have a font installed for. So as shown on the screenshots, the Thai Dom grapheme pages are using a web font for Thai Viet that's stored on the ScriptSource server. Now, contributors can also make use of web fonts in their own articles by using the lang colon markup around the bit of text that needs to use a specific font. So, for instance, the markup lang colon Deva can be used to request a web font that specifically supports Devanagari script. So, looking to the future, this year we've begun to augment our repository of character exemplars by building a mechanism to automatically import writing system data from our linguistic software. So we should have a wider set of character exemplars on ScriptSource soon. We're also looking at including more locale data beside the month names and the day names and the character exemplars. And we're considering further developing the Grapheme phoneme interface that I've just been showing you, although that may be contingent on getting more data in there. And if you have any thoughts on ways of improving that interface, I would be interested to hear them. Okay, so thanks very much for listening. Now, are there any questions?
This is really impressive. Thanks very much for all the hard work that you and the others at SIL have put into it. I'm wondering, as somebody who does a little bit of epigraphic work on scripts that don't have any support in Unicode, whether either through your web font tools or in some other way I would be able to upload just small scans of images from documents to give examples of what characters look like.
Right, that's an interesting question. I don't think we've done any web fonts for characters not in Unicode, but I could certainly ask the team. So you mean like things that are in a PUA but not adopted into Unicode?
I don't know what PUA means, but...
sorry, the private use area, which is where people put characters that haven't got into Unicode.
Well, what I'm thinking of actually is more along the lines of what medieval manuscriptologists do, where they produce very high-quality scans of these illuminated pages that they study, and then they basically segment them into little images, one for each character in sequence. Mm-hmm. And they have databases of these small images that appear organized under the class of grapheme that they are putatively representing. And in cuneiform studies, often there are abrasions to tablets and things that make it unclear whether one instance of a grapheme can be read as one particular sign or another. And so there's really no way to properly index these because we historically have lacked a resource like ScriptSource. But to really make the most out of that, we would need some way of being able to use raw images from these documents in concert with what you've developed.
Yeah, no, that's an intriguing idea. I shall take it back to my team and let you know what they say.
Yeah, we should talk afterwards. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Further questions?
You've talked about the Unicode Status page for every script, and I'm wondering whether ScriptSource also supports submissions for new characters in Unicode, or whether you can do something for people who are interested in applying for a new character or even a writing system which is not yet encoded in Unicode.
Yeah, ScriptSource specifically doesn't do that, but my team does. So if you talk to me afterwards, I have people on my team who are on the Unicode committee, and they can certainly help with Unicode proposals and explain what's required for that.
Thank you.
You showed the phoneme grapheme interface, you know, the mapping from phonemes to graphemes, which looks very interesting. Is there anything, or are you thinking about something to deal, for example, with syllabic scripts or other scripts like where a single character expresses more than a phoneme, like syllables, you know, syllabic writing?
We're not doing that at the moment. I think that would probably have to be a different interface rather than being bolted onto the existing one. I guess if that was something which there seemed to be a wide interest in, then we could certainly explore doing that.
Well, then, thanks again for this interesting talk.